Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars movies that are currently in the works, as well as a handful of other projects, by the way, that John, George, and Dave are actively working on that will be announced at Star Wars Celebration next year. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe is that we have a lot of things from Star Wars Legends that are being cherry-picked, all thankfully, of course, by Favreau and Filoni, and how that's going to be implemented into shows out there like Ahsoka, Mando 3 and 4, as well as other TV shows like the Bo-Katan series, which, by the way, is going to be announced at Celebration next year as well. There's a lot of things in the pipeline, a lot of changes are being made, a lot of adjustments by the Disney executives. They're really making sure that Lucasfilm as a company is going to stay on their A-game, apart from what Kathleen Kennedy is doing with Skeleton Crew and, of course, the Acolyte series. And speaking about Kathleen Kennedy, there's been a recent development behind the scenes of what's been happening with her and the Disney executives, and right now it's not looking so good for Kathleen Kennedy as, of course, the president of Lucasfilm, and when it comes to one of her new Star Wars TV shows that she's working on. Now, the thing about this, before I get to the main subject, is that Disney executives, alright, in case you guys did not know, there are some that are sided with Kathleen Kennedy, there are others that are totally against Kathleen Kennedy's take or version of Star Wars per se, and more in line with John, George, and Dave. Now, that brings us to the next thing here that's very important, is that with the sequels now over, Disney is focused on regaining the lost fans that walked away from the franchise. However, in a recent development that has been happening behind the scenes between Kathleen Kennedy and Disney executives, Kennedy has run into more trouble with the executives for multiple new reasons that involve one of her upcoming Star Wars shows. Now further, it's described that as of right now, Kennedy wants to initiate some reshoots for the Skeleton Crew series to essentially refilm many of the important episodes to include more cameos that she has in mind, to use differently than how Favreau and Filoni used theirs. Now, moving ahead with this plan would create a multi-month delay for the series and has caused tons of trouble for Kathleen Kennedy. Initially, Disney wanted to get Skeleton Crew as a series released by May of next year. That was their big plan. However, with Kathleen Kennedy already planning extensive reshoots for the show, this is said to easily delay the series until August and or September of next year, which is something that Disney is very unhappy about and has been having a lot of arguments with her about this plan. Now let me pause here quick for a second before I get to the more involved stuff that comes after this. I saw this coming from a mile away. I'm sure that a lot of you guys out there saw the same exact thing coming for Skeleton Crew. It really seemed like the production was going way too well for a while. They started filming in early June, mid-June, give or take. Everything was going very well, very smooth. And then this happened about a couple of days ago, where now she wants to do these big reshoots, put in more cameos, specifically cameos that are going to be very familiar to the fans. And it really makes one wonder exactly who is going to be put into the Skeleton Crew series. Now, could it very well be that Kathleen Kennedy is going to give the fans her own version of Ahsoka, Luke, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, you name it? Could it be something like that? Or are these going to be completely different cameos? That's the one thing that a lot of people are trying to figure out right now. So, the thing about this too that I think is very important is that what Disney executives recently did to actually regulate everything based on what Kathleen Kennedy plans to do with, of course, the Skeleton Crew series, and how they have an overall plan to kind of just compensate themselves. Now, this is where things get very, a little wrapped up and a little bit more complicated. And given that the Disney executives are giving Kathleen Kennedy this big ultimatum now, we'll dive into that in the specific details in a second, Kathleen Kennedy does not care about the ultimatum. She is moving forward with these reshoots. She doesn't really seem to care at all about the consequences and all of the above. So, moving on, many executives are not happy and trying to talk Kathleen Kennedy out of making said changes to Skeleton Crew. Now, Disney is said to be giving her another ultimatum that if she goes through with these plans, which most likely she will, that they are going to have to lower the budget drastically for the Skeleton Crew marketing to save revenue to compensate their losses from the reshoots. Kennedy is also described to have given the executives a remote meeting that was done about 2 days ago, where she informed them that she is moving ahead with her plans to reshoot and include more cameos, regardless of the budget of marketing taking a sharp decline by Disney. Now, this is pretty substantial. The fact that we have executives chiming in, really kind of taking control of the situation, giving Kathleen Kennedy an ultimatum, saying if you do this, we are lowering the budget of the marketing for Skeleton Crew, and not in a very minor way, in a very major way. What does this mean for Skeleton Crew? Well, it means that the show might not get as much exposure, which is not really good for Kathleen Kennedy. And at the end of the day, too, a lot of fans are still very unaware about what in the world Skeleton Crew is. Everybody that I know that are either casual fans or just getting into Star Wars have no idea what in the world Skeleton Crew is. Now, granted, we don't really know all that much about the series just yet, other than the fact that it is about lost Padawans across the galaxy trying to find their way home, and how it is going to have a lot of characters that fans are going to be very familiar with. Hence Jude Law giving us that big hint that he was just going crazy on set seeing these familiar faces. So, this is a big deal. I mean, it really does give you an idea of where things are going, between everything related to Kathleen Kennedy, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and the contrast between their creativity and Kathleen Kennedy's creativity being very lackluster. The fact that now she wants to throw in more cameos just for the sake of putting them in there, to what appears to be a plan to boost ratings or boost positive feedback or anything like that. It's really coming off as very desperate at this point in time. So the next thing I do want to actually go over real quick is the fact that, of course, given that the budget for the marketing is going to be completely drastically reduced, and how Kathleen Kennedy does not care about that, it just goes to show you that she does not care about this show going out to regular fans. She just wants it to go out to common viewers that are subscribed to Disney Plus, period, the end. That's her game plan. And that's what she actually admitted a couple of weeks ago, that with Skeleton Crew, she doesn't want to really cater to regular fans. She wants to actually create new fans. So it kind of contradicts everything. Why would you throw in cameos that fans are familiar with if you want to make a show that's very much situated toward non-fans, or fans that are just getting into this whole thing that really don't know much about it, right? So it really is kind of a mess. You don't really know exactly what her motive really is. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to